Chris, how lucky are we to have you? Good morning. Welcome. Are we on Facebook? Is that working now? We're on YouTube today. All right. So welcome, people of YouTube and Zoom and all of you here in the sanctuary. I'm delighted that we get to spend this time together. It's a delight for me. I hope it is the same for you. And I thank you all for contributing to making this Sunday experience possible. It takes a lot. And sometimes we have to figure out things. And sometimes, the gods of technology interfere, or the devils of technology interfere, and then we can't always figure it out, but then Steve steps in and things get better, always get better. So thank you all for helping out. This weather, huh? It's kind of cold. I don't like it. But this is the time. I was just telling somebody here that in Hungary, where the weather should be the same as here, it's about mid to high 60s, and it's not going to get any colder. It's over. Winter is over. So, you can enjoy it in the moment, but who knows what that means for the future. Last week, I gave a talk. And I don't remember anymore what was the title of it, but afterwards, Joe came to me and he said, now mind you, you guys applauded that talk. It doesn't often happen, but it happened last week. Joe came to me afterwards and said, now G, we set the titles of these talks way ahead of time, like weeks in advance. And the title of this talk was something like Rain and Roots, or Rain to Roots, something like that. And, I never heard you mention it once. And of course, in my mind, I did such a good such a good job developing the thought that I figured it would just be stating the obvious if I would mention the title. So it's funny because of how my brain works. So the title today is Branching Out, okay? So Joe, here's one to you. And by the way, he was right. I never mentioned it and I should have. So the title today is Branching Out. And it's about, growing. Like when you're a kid and you're growing, you have growing pains because things are stretching inside you, like your bones and your teeth, and it hurts. I do remember when I was a kid that I would have these pains, and my mom would always tell me, just be patient, G, it'll go away. This is just normal. This is normal. But I remember still the growing pain. So growing and changing is not comfortable. In fact, I think it's very seldomly comfortable. And in fact, I think that anybody and any system that stays within the established order stops growing. So anybody and any system that restricts itself into the well-established boundaries of whatever order had already been created stops growing. Now, of course, it means that they become very good at executing that which had been created to that point. But there is no growth. There is no exploring new possibilities within that well-established order. To grow, you have to challenge that well-established order and go beyond it. And that is scary. It is scary for many, many reasons. It is scary because, you can't predict the outcome. You have a high hope, but you cannot predict the outcome. You have to trust the unknown. Now, who's comfortable with that? Like, raise your hands. I hate it. You do. There's one person in this room, I don't know how many online, raised your hands. But I personally hate it. I hate it. And I usually recognize that I am stepping again into this unknown, and I'm going to do it anyway, but it's not because I love it. Every time I step on this platform, I step into that unknown. I'm not here, I don't stand here because I think I'm so awesome, because I never feel like my talk is finished. It's not because I'm comfortable. I do it in spite of it. I do it in spite of it. And sure, I love it. I love the big picture of it. But the moment when I come out here, or when I drive up to this building, you don't want to be in my shoes, in my skin. You just don't. We do things in spite of our discomfort. And in that lies potential. Lincoln said, to be able to predict the future, you must create it. To predict the future, you must create it. There's no other way. But how do you create something out of nothing? How do you create something out of nothing? Well, of course, first of all, you have a thought. Then the next thought occurs that this thought could be possible. It's possible to manifest it. And then you start matching your actions to your thoughts. And that is a process. And if anything makes you vulnerable in life, that's the one. When you bring forth a thought that only exists here, and then bring it into a possibility, manifestation, physical manifestation, that is a very vulnerable position to be. And most often we're not comfortable with vulnerability. But there is no growth without vulnerability. So now imagine that there's the acorn seed. Imagine it lays in that hard shell. And safe, protected by that hard shell. It could live there forever. But if it does, its potential is never realized. The acorn tree, the oak tree, is never realized if the acorn remains in its shell, within its established order. It has to disturb the established order, crack the shell for the tree to grow. There's many examples, like the baby eagles. Think about that first flight, or any bird really, when you fly from up above. But the eagles are, by the time they take flight, they're fairly large, the baby eagles. And so the way they do it, the parents teach them to open their wings. And then when the wind blows through their wings, to them it feels a little bit like flying. It's simulation. But then, if they don't take flight, if they wish to remain within the boundaries of the already established order, then the parents start pushing. You gotta go, baby. You gotta go. You gotta take flight. So they take food in their mouths and they fly close to the nest. And they don't land. So then the baby reaches for the food, and eventually it reaches far enough that it must fly. Imagine that moment. There is the fear of, I've never done this before. Even if I was created for this, I've never done it before. I don't know how to do it. And then the glory, when you realize that I can trust the process. Change is messy. And in order to grow, one has to trust the messiness, that it'll work itself out. Now, it's one thing to seek personal change. I know I have an issue. It's impacting my life negatively. It's impacting my relationships negatively. And it's time I start working on it. I pick a therapist or whatever, go to workshops, and I start working on this one. So there is a risk in that too. But now imagine when a community together decides to change, decides to step on this path of growth. It's messy. It's hard to tell. It's hard to predict the outcome. There's a hoped for outcome, but no leader can really say that I will for sure take you there. The people can't really trust 100% that we are going to get there. And yet, if that community stays within the well-established boundaries of the order, already established order, then there's no growth. So this is something that our community has embraced. A little over a year ago, maybe a little more than that, we hired a consultant to help us find our blind spots. Like, what is the reason that we don't grow, and then how could we grow? How could we, well, disturb the boundaries of the well-established order and see what possibilities lie outside of it? And that is a scary proposition. It's scary for the leadership because your board and your leaders, it's a vulnerable position. It's one thing to lead a community and do everything the way it's always been done. Then, your tracks are covered. Well, we've always done it this way, we do it again, what's the problem? But when we start doing things differently, and then there's always doubt, then we have to come to a collective agreement how we do this, it creates messiness. But it's a good messiness because it is filled with possibilities. And we're starting to see now results because of the choices that your leadership has embraced. And well, we all embraced it. It's not just you, we all embraced it, but the leaders were the ones who said, let's go in that direction, the messiness. And then it also requires a commitment. So you stick with it. You can't just do it for a little bit, because as far as I'm concerned, there's two definitions for insanity. One is do the things you've always done and expect a different outcome. And the other one is stop doing that which works. Stop doing that which works. To me, if there is insanity, that's the one. So, branching out. Branching out means stepping out of one's comfort zone. And it means one thing for an individual, it means another thing for a community. And, as I was thinking about how I wanted to develop this talk, on the one hand, I know that we human beings, there is an expansiveness about us. We always want to explore more and more, and newer horizons, and grow more and more. And then I thought that is also the problem, the cause of the problems we're experiencing globally. That we have explored so much and we have exploited this planet so much that it became a problem in itself. So while we explore, while we expand, we also have to stay in touch with what is. What a balance to strike. So, constantly be completely in touch with reality and see what is happening and be aware of the impact that you are creating and be willing to adjust accordingly, which is hard, which is very difficult because we become very attached to certain outcomes. And because of that, we will ignore perhaps negative impacts. So both end. And that's the tension in life. Both end. We want to create something positive and then be aware if there's a collateral damage attached to it. And if there is, this needs to be tweaked. If there is collateral damage, this needs to be tweaked. You can't just carry on with it. We see that playing out today in the world, in the conflict zones of the world. You have to consider the means to your actions. You just have to. So then I was thinking that globally, we have to rein in. Globally, we have to actually consume less, exploit less to make life possible for all living things on this planet. So how is that then expansiveness? But what it is, again, stepping out of our comfort zone. We've become comfortable with tremendous consumption. We've created our economic systems based on consumption. The only way this economic system can carry on, in fact, if we keep consuming. But it's like the snake eating its own tail. We can't keep consuming. So it requires us globally to step out of this comfort zone that we've created and create a new system, upset the current order, established order. So the new possibilities we create allow for life and for life to continue on this planet. So it's a balance. It's messy. You understand it's messy. And because it's messy, so often we don't want to do it. And the acorn remains in its shell. And I don't know if baby eagles never fly. But the acorn remains in its shell and the possibilities are not manifested. In the Gospel of Thomas, it says, and I've quoted this before, that bring forth that which is within you. For if you bring forth that which is within you, that which is within you will save you. If you do not bring forth that which is within you, that which is within you will destroy you. The unrealized potential. We all know, we all have those honest moments within ourselves where we know how we're doing. We know if there's more here, there's more to realize. And when we don't, we know how we feel about that too. We have shame, we have guilt, we put ourselves down. We know that. So bring forth that which is within you. What is within this community? What is it that we need to bring forth that is in this community? For if we bring it forth, it will save this community. And if we don't, it will destroy this community. And that requires a willingness to branch out. A willingness to look at that which has never been, but could be. And then work together to get there. And it's messy. And who likes to touch messiness? I don't. But there's no growth without messiness. It's not possible. One of the things that is part of this, that the consultant has us do, and we are begrudgingly embracing it, is reaching out to partner organizations and network with them. So that means that we make phone calls. It means that we cold call organizations that we think we have something in common with, and then network with them. And let me tell you, it's not in my comfort zone. Just not in my comfort zone. If you come into this building, oh boy, I'm so comfortable with you, I'll talk to you, we're good, but you're on my turf. But for me to go to your turf, for me that's very uncomfortable. And then there's two things that I've learned. A, I can do it. B, the more I do it, the more what I get? Comfortable. The more I comfortable am doing it. And then in the process, I've learned that I've also made connections that I enjoy. So like I made friends. I made connections that sustain me. And who knew that? How would the acorn ever know what it feels like to be a huge oak tree with branches expanding so far? How would the little acorn ever know? There is a drive within. There is something within that it needs to let out. And if it does, it saves it. And if it doesn't, it destroys it. We're the acorn. What is there within us? What is our full potential? I want to see that. And it's messy. And we have to do it together. And we have to allow it. And we have to embrace it. And we also have to put our gifts together to make it happen. Like all of us participate in it. We're all parts of that little acorn. What is our job to do to crack that shell open? It's vulnerable, it's messy, and full of potential. Full of potential. That inspires me. That's the thing about growth. That's the thing about life. That's the thing about lived life, well-lived life. So it is my hope and wish that we embrace the messiness. It is my hope and wish that we all think about how can we all contribute to cracking that shell of the little acorn. So we can become that oak tree, that full potential. And then see what that oak tree has to offer. Not only to ourselves, but to all who come under its shade and its radius. There is so much life here to live, so much life here to allow. So let us do it together.